What's going on, everybody? This is Justin from Off the Road Podcast, and you guys are really going to want to tune into this one if you were a fan of early 2000 movies, high school movies, Jennifer Love Hewitt, any of those things. And I got my buddy Bobby Harris with me. He's an old friend from high school and always fun to talk to. What's up, man?
Hey, how's it going, man?
It's definitely going. It's definitely going. Um, I guess with no further ado, man, let's jump into it. We're going to talk about Can't Hardly Wait. It was a movie that may have had an impact on both of us, both of our lives in high school, or it just could have been just something we watched one Friday night. Uh, let's get into it, man. Tell me about the first time you seen it.
I was thinking about that. You sent me that question. I cannot remember the first time I saw it, but I was probably a junior because it came out our summer before my junior year. So it would have been
Hmm.
summer before your sophomore year, I believe. So I don't remember if I saw it in the theater or if I saw it. I probably rented it from, I don't, what was movie gallery called in the 90s
Movie
right there in
Land.
Hillsboro? Movie Land. Yeah.
Movie Land.
Yeah. I probably rented it on VHS from there. It's most likely what happened. And I remember watching
Yeah,
it and thinking, this is epic. This is hilarious. It is everything that we know and everything that we want. Being from a small town, like that type of party atmosphere was always like, oh, we want to go to the high school house party, but it was in the Metroplex, like where you would hear those stories. So that movie just like encapsulated that era for us as high school students.
but that's actually a perfect segue into the next question. Do you let's talk about, was there ever a party in Hillsborough that reminded you of something like Can't Hardly Wait?
So in reality, Hillsborough parties remind me much more of like Dazed and Confused. Like party at the moon tower out in the field, that type of thing. There's not like when I look back on it, I don't think, and honestly, like high school time, I it's super nostalgic for me. Like I love every era of my life, every season I've been through. I love. So I don't look back and say I wished I was there, but I can look back and say, man, that was fun. Like I enjoyed these aspects of it. And high school, I don't have those memories of like a high school party that reminds me of that movie. And let's be
Mhm.
fair though, like in high school, like I was the super clean kid, didn't drink, didn't do anything, but I raced motocross, so I had a lot of concussions. And I don't remember certain things that a lot of people do remember. But I don't remember a party that lines up with that movie.
The closest thing I remember was I hope she doesn't get mad for saying her name, but Amanda Roche had a pretty legendary party that there's some good stories came out of it, right?
Well, so
That's what
which
comes to mind.
there were two parties in particular I may think you're talking about. I don't, and one was maybe a New Year's party. The other was prom. So I don't know which one you're
Uh,
referring to.
the New Year's party.
Okay, that was that was probably up there for especially for Hillsborough, being like
Mhm.
that type of like just peak high school party that you might remember in that sense. Yeah, I could see that 100%.
Um, what character kind of did you gravitate towards, and who was your favorite character in Can't Hardly Wait?
Dude, so like it's funny that you asked that because I was thinking about it earlier and I was like, I don't know. I didn't want to like in this scenario, I thought it'd be real funny for in the comments for people to tag who they thought was who.
Right.
Like I want to see who other people thought they were. Like for me, like when I watch a film like Can't Hardly Wait that was about a certain era in time, there's literally like something I resonate with every character in that film. So like we can go from like from Preston, there was like there definitely like certain aspects I resonate with that. Down to Kenny Fisher, who's certain aspects I like. We did a show together, right? Like at a talent show. We had like really Kenny Fisher was my inspiration for that show. Like
Oh, for sure.
100% that I was like modeling that character. So like everything in between, even like the nerds on the roof, like doing the Star Wars stuff, like 100% me. Like I love Star Wars. So there's aspects of every character that tie me back to that time, and I love it. How about you?
No, that's your answer was magnificent. I agree. I think that the great thing that the movie does is it shows every side, every possible personality that a high school could is composed of. This movie kind of showed. And like you said, I think you made all good points. Preston, there was a part of me that was Preston. I wanted the girl, and I wrote a letter that I never gave to a girl. Um, and then you got, obviously we love hip hop. We were influenced by rappers, and so you can go all the way. The only person I probably didn't relate to was Mike. What was his last name?
Hold on,
Mike
I
Dexter.
got the list. Mike Dexter, yeah, I have the list brought up in front of me just for this.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe I looked, maybe Mike Dexter and I didn't, have
Yeah,
a hundred relatable qualities. But yeah, I thought the movie was great, and I'd have to go a mix between, a few of the characters. Um, who do you think stole the show?
uh, dude. So there was what was his name? William, the nerdy guy that ended up accidentally drunk and couldn't feel his legs. I have no legs. That scene was hilarious. And then, I mean, he stole the party absolutely in the film. Um, Kenny, I will always go back to that. Like that's my favorite character just because it's so outlandish and it encapsulated such a weird moment in time, like where we had white America trying to adopt Black America themes and just like running with them and like blowing them up. So for me, that character is hilarious. I can't tell you how many times I've quoted to my wife, "Baby, you are far too fine to look so sad." Like Kenny's quotes are the best quotes to like. If you have a girlfriend or you're married, I've been married 16 years and I quote that nonstop. Like, my favorite character, bar none, is Kenny. Like just because he's quotable, like the most quotable in the film.
I dig it. I think I'm gonna have to go with is his name William, the nerd, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he wins the movie. The reason why I say he stole the show is because I think he wins the movie. He starts off a guy who says, Mike Dexter hit me in the eye with a raisin. My parents took me to a 3D festival and I saw no third dimension. And then he ends up the lead singer of the band, the star of the party, with three girls on his arm. Um,
Yeah.
I think that he wins the movie, man. I think William's
No,
the
I
guy.
agree. So as a character, like in the film, he wins. But
Right.
longevity, Kenny is the most quotable of all of them.
I
Well,
agree.
hold up. Preston ends up with Jennifer Love Hewitt. That's hard to beat.
So does
Hard to beat.
Preston win the movie? Preston has to win the movie, right?
He ends up with one of the prima donna, like the top of the cream of the crop for the 90s.
I'm taking Jennifer Love Hewitt over the three that William got. How about you?
Oh, for sure.
For sure.
And my wife
And
would agree.
Did you know that Jennifer Love Hewitt is from Waco?
Yes, I did. And dude, we missed our mark. Like we just barely missed it. We had an opportunity. We were a little late on the game.
We were. Man, and actually, just to stay on her, she's trying to film a sequel.
Really? I did not know that.
She said that on a podcast. I can't remember what I heard it on, but yeah, that's facts.
That's awesome.
Could Netflix make this into a 10-episode show?
So I read that question when you sent it to me, and I feel pretty strongly about this. I think that film should be left alone to be what it is.
Okay.
I like to explain, like, my daughter's 14 years old, right? Like, she just saw the film. I let her watch it, and I was like, what do you think? And for me, it gives me an opportunity to engage in conversation and just explain how awesome that moment was. Just like my parents did with me with Dazed and Confused. Like, Dazed and Confused and that film came out around the same time, but they're 20 years apart in what was going on. So for me, I like to be able to have that conversation more than I want to see the story expounded upon. Like, I think it should stay the way it is. How about you?
I wouldn't mind. I would only want to see it if it was the characters aged. Like I want to see them at a reunion.
Yeah. That's fair. because they would be us, right? Like
That's what I'm saying.
that would be fun. Like, where did they end up? Like, because in the comments, people are now going to tag who in high school was that character. That's what we want. So now we're going to know what that is. Like, we're going to 100% know who that person would be now. If we never get that sequel, we never get that 10 episodes from Netflix, the comments are going to tell us who it is.
I'm super curious about that as well.
Yeah.
Tell me about a couple of your favorite scenes.
Oh, man. So, like, one scene that because I'm a film nerd, right? Like, I love film. One of my favorite, like, when you put the soundtrack with the film, like, you tie it all together, direction, everything. When Jennifer Love Hewitt walks in and Sneaker Pimps is playing, like, that scene is seared in my brain as a 90s, like, this is a late 90s epic moment. And it's not because one element, it's just that it was all tied together perfectly. And, like, that band never achieved they never achieved amazing greatness, but that scene is seared. And because of that, I know who the Sneaker Pimps are, and I'll never forget. So I think almost for everything in that film, the moments that are seared in my brain are tied to the soundtrack as well, right? Like, so when William does Paradise City, right? That whole scene, you'll never forget that moment where he, like, gets thrown back up and the mic is thrown into his hand, right? Like, it's perfect. And it hits right in the dead spot in the song. It's amazing.
No, that's...
How about you?
I love those scenes. I like, for some reason, I like how I love the William scene at the beginning where he's telling his friends about what they're going to do tonight. They're setting up their big, this is what it's all come down to. I really like that. I think the bathroom scenes with Kenny Fisher and the girl he ends up getting with, they have a really good dynamic. I like how they play off each other. You almost believe that they hate each other and then they love each other. It's a great scene. And kind of like you said, the Sneaker Pimps, Jennifer Love Hewitt scene, I feel the same way about Preston running through the New York terminal, the terminal, and giving his letter to Jennifer Love Hewitt. So.
Yeah, that soundtrack is a moment seared in time, right? Like, we're never going to forget those songs. And so the soundtrack was released, but it doesn't include all the amazing, like the Sneaker Pimp song's not on the soundtrack. There's a White Zombie song that's not on the soundtrack. But all of those songs, they're in the film, and they're seared in my memory. I'll never forget those moments. Like, White Zombie became a fan. I was a boy fan of that band, like crazy, and starting in middle school. So when I heard it on that film where it was tied in all this amazing pop music, it just seared something amazing. Like, just sealed that whole era for me. Like, it's just a phenomenal film for that era and for music.
You're right. To kind of show its age, one of the few rappers on that soundtrack, there was Lil' Kim and there was Run DMC. So really,
don't forget Busta. You're forgetting Busta.
Busta had a great song on there. You're right.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the soundtrack, man. Don't test me.
I actually told somebody that was a very underrated soundtrack, but my argument was the point that you just made. Most of the good songs wasn't actually on the soundtrack; they were just in the movie.
Yeah, the soundtrack was phenomenal. B-sides is what it was. Like, if you listen to the soundtrack, there's tons of great B-sides. Like, it's amazing what they put out, and I think it really helped. Like, Eve 6, right? Like, we remember Eve 6. Like, that was a pivotal band during that era. And if you listen to it, Third Eye Blind. Like, we listened to Graduate on that soundtrack. Phenomenal. Like, that song, anyone from our era loves that song. Within 2 years of us, Up or Down, right? Like, that song is seared in our brains. Like, that is the 90s. I want to hear it. There's several new bands I think could cover that well, and I want to hear it. Like, Knock Loose could kill it with a new pop punk version of that that's a little heavy. I would love to hear it when it happens.
This is really beside the point, but this kind of what the podcast is. I heard something and I thought about you. I don't know the name of the band, but they redid Post Malone's Congratulations. screamo style. You got to check it out. I wish I knew who the band. I may put it down below, but you'll dig it.
Yeah, yeah. I'll check it out as soon as you send it to me.
Yeah, man. Tell me. I guess we pretty much talked about the movie, but I want to ask you about the shirt you're wearing. And you're always up to cool things. You're always doing cool stuff. So I want to give a minute to hear what you're up to.
Dude, okay, so shirt abroad, texasabroad.com. Go check it out. It's a brand for Texans that don't live in Texas. And the best part about not living in Texas is talking about Texas. And I like to annoy locals here in Nashville, like just nonstop talking about Texas. So you can check that out. Another brand I got is Peace Love Beer. So peacelovebeer.com. That's just like for craft beer lovers, just having fun, enjoying life. So other than that, like I have a marketing business now. That's what I do. Like last time we talked, that's what I was doing. I just like to have fun and grow things from the ground up. For me, I have a blast doing that.
That's awesome, man. Well, I definitely want to have you come on one day and just talk to young entrepreneurs, kind of give us all some advice and things that we could do better. So we'll have to meet back
I would
up.
love that.
And
absolutely.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say next time I'm in Texas, I'm gonna hit you up. We're gonna sit down and do that in person.
Let's have some peace, love, and beer, perhaps.
I'm into it. Let's absolutely do that.
All right, man. I guess is there anything about the movie you want to add before we head out? Oh, actually,
I think everyone.
Let me ask you. How was the experience? My daughter's 12, going to be 13 in a few months. How was the experience watching it with your daughter?
So she loves grunge, like loves grunge. So like I've introduced her to music, and so for her it was just like a tie into what was happening when that music that she loves was written, and what people were like at that moment. I mean, we're all the same. Like I've worked with youth and young adults since high school, and now I have a young adult youth in my house, right? So, like I've ran music venues, I've done like youth ministry, I've done it all. So I've seen the evolution since we were in high school, since 2000, and it's amazing to see kids are the same. Like they don't change who they are. What they have access to changes, and the way they interact with each other, that's changed. But my 14-year-old daughter, she is still a 14-year-old kid. And if we threw her back 20 years like we were, she would still be the same as we were at that point. Like, so she just is way into learning about the culture. Like when she saw the film, she was just like, this is the best thing ever. So we're going to start working her through. Dazed and Confused is next. Like I'm making her watch that because, and we got to do a podcast about that one, right? Like,
man,
Texas.
I'm so down.
That's one of my favorites, right? Like, I love Can't Hardly Wait, but Dazed and Confused may be better in my book. I love both of them, though. Like, it's it's almost neck and neck.
I have Dazed and Confused. When people ask me my three favorite movies, it's always Dazed and Confused, Friday, and Good Will Hunting.
That's a great list. That is a great list. I mean, like, because being small town Texas, Dazed and Confused is the parties we knew.
Yes.
Like, I will never forget. There was a time, and we were at a party. I don't remember where it was, and you were probably there. Like we were at the same scenarios most of the time. And someone's like, "Cops are coming," and that was in my dad's brand new Honda Civic, and we're in a field. And Todd Kimbrell gets in his Z71 and takes off through a freshly plowed cornfield. I don't remember who was in the car with me, but I was like, I gotta go. I followed Todd in his Z71 in my dad's Honda Civic through this field. We go through a creek bed, like the whole 9 yards. Like it was awful. And they're like, I can't believe you made it. Made it out the other side. I don't know if cops are ever actually coming, but that's, every party in Texas, just like, you never know what's going to happen when you're out in the middle of a field. And I'm like the only sober one. Like I don't drink at that point in life.
I've watched it with people from other states actually, and even bigger cities, and they ask me, do the girls really get, do they really get hazed like that? Do you guys have clubs? And I'm like, oh my God, let me tell you about. I mean, I can't remember the girls, but they would be at Walmarts with mustard on them, and things I can't even speak of taped to them, and It was crazy.
Yeah. It was that movie, even though it was 20 years before our time, was still pretty accurate for us. It was not too far out of context.
It was, I mean, even with the coaches making the kids sign, letters and do things like
Yeah,
that's so spot on. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Mr. Woody with his paddle, right? Like we lived in a different time that our kids know. They'll never understand what we went through.
Well, Matt Wickman says that he said, well, he even kind of isolates it even more. He said growing up in Hillsboro, like no one understands what it's like growing up in Hillsboro unless you actually in the '90s.
Yeah. It was a crazy time. Like we got to make that film. That's our goal, right?
I'm probably gonna edit that out the podcast. Just no, we are gonna do that for sure. I'll send you a
I mean,
script of.
I have filmmaker friends. We just got to do it.
I've written something about. I've written actually something that's gotten good feedback. I'll email it to you after this, and it's
Do
about
it.
me being. It's called June 12th, 1996.
I want to read it for sure.
Yeah, we'll do that. So I guess, man, we could talk all day. This has turned into even more than I thought it would be. Glad we got to talk a little Dazed and Confused. We're going to come back and meet that. Do you want to say anything before we head up?
No, man. I appreciate hanging out. Like I know we're 600 miles apart, but it's always good to see you.
Always, brother. Always. I can't wait till you get to Texas. We're going to have some peace, love, and beer. Guys, remember to stay positive and just chill to the next episode. I'm out. I'm Justin. It's Off the Road Podcast.